in our previous creations in this very playlist, we have done well and we have a new task. So over here, what we're going to be doing is just to create this particular dashboard. But before we start creating, we are going to be looking at the PDF that contains the tasks or the recommendations for the dashboard. So if you look at what we have here now, it's a heat map that shows the, booking success on a monthly basis and as well on a weekly basis. So I can decide to show the values right now. Just click over here where you have this particular value right in, and it shows the value for every single month and every single week. If you want to clear the values away from here, click on no values, and that actually disappears all the values we have right here. And you can decide to go ahead and check for where you have cancellation, and you're going to have this switched for you. Can you see how easy it is right now? Something very simple. So what we are looking at right now is actually for the returning customers. So if you want to see the first time customers, all you have to do is to click on this particular slicer and it switches to the first time customers, and you can see the patterns on our heat map, right? So this is something that has to do with the PDF we received for the recommendation of the dashboard, what we need to show. So over here, we're trying to show the cancellation and as well the reservation, people who actually some kind of checked in. So the red for cancellation and the blue for people who checked in to the hotel. And over here, we're trying to look at the previous year and previous month and the month over month change and as well the year over year change. So on this particular part, what we are looking at is actually the seasonality, like, winter, summer, and spring, how many cancellations you've had and how many, reservation that actually got checked in. Then we have this particular part. This is one of my favorite parts right here. So it's a little bit advanced and I'm going to show you how to actually get this very part here created. So if you look at it right now, it says top 2 months with the most reservations. So it's January that has 5,082,000 and June that has 4,798,000. And the month we have the most, highest cancellations. So December and November, and you can see their values right here. So this is going to be something that actually supports this particular line chart to make more sense. Instead of we just putting this right here as a line chart, we add more context by doing this particular commentary or captions, depends on what you want to call it. So those are the things we're going to be doing in this particular class. So before we do this, let us take a look at what the PDF is actually talking about. If you're just getting started from the scratch, you would have this particular PDF downloaded, and starting from here, you can see what you really need to actually, take a look at before you start actually creating. So in this particular class, what we're going to look at is this particular task for dashboard 2 right here. So all you have to do is to read through this to understand exactly what we are about to get into. So it's something very simple. So we're going to be creating this together. Here is a fresh page that has nothing inside it. So what we can do right now is to go over to here. Now we have our DAX room here where we created other DAX in. So what I'm going to do right now is to create my first DAX for this particular dashboard. Remember, our focus is on actually booking and cancellations that we've had over time. So what we can do to calculate the total booking right now is to actually do total. You can do reservation or you can do booking. Depends on what you really want to use. So it depends on what you want. So to calculate how many reservations we've had or how many bookings we've had now, what we can do is use this particular function called count rows. So with count rows, we count the table where our facts table is. So that's going to be data set right here. And we hit the enter key, right? Something very simple. So if you look at it, what we have just done is to count this particular table here. So if you look at it right now, we have 92,000 rows here. So to prove that right or wrong, let us bring in this. Can you see? We have the same exact number, right? So our focus right now is to actually, go into the complex one before we take the simple one, right? So I'm just going to leave this one right here as just a simple KPI card for now. Then after this, I can right click here and go ahead and add a new visual. So So this time around, I want to actually add a visual, which is going to be a line chart. I can bring this on and I bring in this particular line chart right here. Inside this line chart, I want to actually get the month in, right? So if you open your calendar now, you have lots of columns right here. I have given you access to have this downloaded. If I go over here, you can now see we have lots of columns here. So I actually created this one using DAX. It's something very simple. You can create it as well. If you want to watch the video, I can share you the video, but I gave you the code to use. So what we want to use now in this particular chart is going to be the start of month. So start of month is this one here. So we have our start of month, and I want to go over here now and drag in this into here. So now this is what we have, a very simple visual right here. You get it now? So I don't want to actually start telling you about start of month and end of month. In separate videos in this particular channel, I have talked about it. And if you want to know more about it, you can actually check out my course where I actually talk about start and end of month and how they are actually different from normal months. Okay. So once I've gotten this now, we come to this particular data set right here. And I'm going to actually click on this particular part here. Then we go over to data set. If I scroll to this end, you can now see we have cancellation that has, column here, this particular column that has yes and no. So for the no means the person that booked that particular apartment actually checked in, while the yes means there is some kind of cancellation, right? So if this will not make any sense, you can actually add a new column that to actually, get things done the right way. So what do? Right click and just add a new column. So over here is just a simple thing. So I can just say cancellation or cancel start or whatever you want to use. I can just do is so I can do is cancelled. So what I'm going to do right here is to use the if function to actually check this particular cancellation, column here and see if there is anything that is existing here called no. Then if we have one, I'm just going to make sure I say this one should be reserved, right? Otherwise, just give me what? Give me cancelled. Can you see this now? So we close and hit or enter. This is more descriptive and make a lot of sense than using this particular yes and no. So right now we have two items in here, reserved and cancel, or we can actually call it check-in, whatever you want to call it. So once we are done now, we go back here and now we just have to bring this one to the legend area. Let's go ahead and look for the legend. So here we have the legend and you just bring in is cancelled right in here. So you're going to have two different lines. Can you see what we have now? So in the focus mode, this is what we have. You can now see the variance up and down. So the next thing we have to do is to actually make sure we still some kind of stick to the previous color we used in the previous dashboard. So if I come over here, so now you can see this particular blue color, and as well you have this red color. So this blue color is actually for, revenue here, and the red color is used to attribute all the revenue we have actually lost. So right now we have to make sense with this particular same color right on this particular one here. So what I'm going to do is to actually click on this particular table. Then over here now, I'm going to go to the line area. So the very first thing I have to do is to go to the linear part here, and I want to use smooth line. So once I've done now, I can just scroll down. Then on the color area here, once you click on it now, you just have this. So let's see. Then we check the series and we click on cancel. So what color do we want to use to identify the canceled, booking? We choose this particular color. That correlates with the previous dashboard we've created, right? Then the next thing is for we to go back up again. So for the reserved one here, people that checked in, then we choose to use this very color here. Now, those are the two colors we're going to use. So this color is not popping out very well. We can decide to actually go over here now and choose a darker version of it. This one pops better. Still in the same family of that particular color we've used in the previous dashboard. So we have gotten this right now. The most important part of this particular chart is not this chart right here, is the insight we have right on it, right? So what we want to do right now, we don't want to actually highlight or mark a particular segment of this particular chart. Instead, we want to write a particular DAX that will actually tell us the top 2 months where we have high cancellation and high booking or check-in, whatsoever you want to call it. So do you think that is easy? I think it's very easy. So let me show you how to do it. So we are actually back here now. So what I'm going to do, I always love to organize my measures inside a folder. Then I'm going to come over here. Okay, we're back here now. I'm going to right click and create a new measure here. If you're a beginner, this particular, part might look a little bit confusing, but don't worry. I'm going to explain it to you and it will be very easy for you to understand. So what I'm going to do right now is to actually write here, caption. Then I'm going to do canceled bookings. Okay. So once I've done this now, I'm going to use a particular function called concatenate x. So even though if you don't understand the reason why I'm using concatenate x right now, is something very simple. This concatenate x here will actually help us to actually combine multiple rows of data in a single, format. You understand? Later, after all, I am going to explain to you why I am using this. So inside this now, what we want to do is to find the top 2 months from this particular line chart right here, which might not be very easy without having to get this particular function here used, which is the top end function, right? So with the top end function, we're going to say we are looking for top 2, right? That is top 2 months. So we have 12 months. We're looking for 2 months, and this particular 2 month will be based on a particular, measure, and that measure should actually be the measure that is sitting here. But right now, we should have created particular, measure that will actually support what we are doing. We don't have it yet, but don't worry, I can show you how to control that later. After all, you can create it. So once I've done this now, to make it very easy, we have to quickly create a summarize. So using the summarize function here and the filter function, I am going to still explain all of this to you. Then we are going to actually go into our calendar table. So calendar. So, and actually say, okay, go and check and find out all the months with values and ignore the blanks. To get that done right now, we need to actually, bring in here our measure, right? So that is what we don't have right now. So what can we do in this particular situation? So I can just go ahead and highlight all of this place and comment them out and hit my enter key. Let's see if this will give us an error. So we did not experience any error right here. So everything is good. So inside here, before we go further, we also have created a measure here that we forgot. I'm going to create a new measure right in here. Just 2 measures, but they are very identical. We can copy and paste and just make a little change. So over here, the measure I'm going to create here should be cancel bookings. So for the cancel booking right now, I'm going to use the calculate function. So inside the calculate function, I'm going to actually do total reservation or total booking. Depends on what you actually name your measure. So once we have done this now, we actually go over here to filter this particular value by changing its context. So over here now, we're going to do cancel. Remember, we now have two different columns inside our dataset table that actually tells us if it is being cancelled or the booking is actually being checked in. So it's either you use this one or you use this one, any one of your choice. So let me go, sorry, this one or this top one, which is this or this. So if I go with this particular one right now, in this one, we have to understand what we have right in here. So for the cancelled one, we now say where it is equals to yes. So let's see. So we have to put an equal sign here. Then we go ahead and close. I believe you still remember this particular column. Check your data right now to understand this before you move further. It's very important. So once we have done this now, we hit the enter key. So what have we just done? We have separated the booking one that was checked in from this particular one that was booked but were not checked in, were later cancelled. So to get the booking one right now, this one is the cancelled one, not the booking one. We need to create a new measure. So over here, we create a new measure. So we have to actually call this one. This one is cancelled. This is reserved booking. I don't know. It depends on what you want to call it. So I'm gonna put no here. Yeah, that is no. So here we go. So if I take you back here, let us look at what we have here. Inside here, we have this column that has to do with cancellation status. So the yes means it was cancelled. The no means it was not cancelled. Then if we now go back to what I have written here for reserved booking here now, I said no, which means it was reserved and it was being checked in, right? That is it. Okay. Now let us use this to update this particular caption here now. To freeze this, what we did to actually get this comment here was to hold our control key and the slash. So if you do that again, it's going to actually release it for you. So over here, after filter and the calendar, what we actually need is to actually give it what it's going to use to actually check, and only restore values to those months that actually has values. So we're going to actually give it now. We're in for cancellation. So we do cancelled bookings here. And now say we want where it is not blank. Can you see it now? So we close and we'll put a comma. Okay. In case you don't understand what is going on right now, just follow me step by step to write this while I explain to you. Then you have the full understanding and you can write it all by yourself without looking at this code. So once you are done now, the next thing is for we to create a temporary, column here. Let us call the column. Before we do that, we have to bring in months. So I have two different months in my calendar table or date table. We have the long month, which is this particular one here, and we have the short month. So I'm using the short month right now. Take note of it. So we are using the short month right here. So with the short month right now, what we need to do is to actually say, okay, you know what? We want to actually calculate all the values for this particular month, which is all the cancelled bookings that we have had on this particular month. To do that right now, we just let us do cancel or reservation, whatever you want to use. Let us do cancelled. So cancel reservation here. So we put a comma and you bring in the cancelled bookings right in here. So this is just like a variable that we store something right in. So instead of us to reuse this particular one later after all, we're going to rather use this one because right now, this value here is now being stored right in here for every single month. You get it now. So once we have done that right now, we are going to tell the system to actually create an order of what we have just done. Yeah, I think we have to close. Let us come over here and close this. Then we'll put a comma, and now it's asking us to order by expression. So how do we want to order this, and what expression do we want to use to actually have this ordered? So right now is gonna be this right here. You can copy it and come over here and have it pasted in here. So once you have done that, you put a comma here. There, yes. That is this one. Okay, now we should have typed it in. That would be better. Let me show you. To solve this problem now, I can just highlight this particular segment here and do this. Sorry. So once you made this particular mistake, what you can do is just to highlight, and it will actually open and close this square bracket for you. And that way to get it done is make it very easy on yourself, is just to type it in by doing cancelled, and it's going to give you a suggestion. Then you pick this particular one, right? Don't copy and paste, otherwise you're going to have, an error. So now we're going to do it by descending, highest to the lowest. You get it right now. Once you're done, you close, and the next thing now, this is all we want to return. This is everything we want to return. Can you see it now? All right. If you want to see what this returns before we actually get what we want, what you can do now is to actually copy from here, exclude what? Exclude the concatenate X. Exclude the concatenate X. Copy from here. And let us go over to the table view here. So we're going to have an error, but don't worry about the error we're going to have. So we're going to fix the error later after all. We should have commented it out though. So now we are here. I'm going to actually go ahead and create a new table. Just brand new table. So new table here, not column, but new table. So here now I'm going to just name it like top 2 months. So the next thing is for me to paste this over here. Look at what happens if I hit my enter key. Can you see what happens now? We now have a physical table that has 2 different columns. 2 different columns. Please pay attention right here. This is how you learn DAX. Now, this returns 2 different columns. This happened because we actually created a table and pour it in. Let us now go back to our measure and look at what we have here. So over here now, we have an error. And if I decide to push this inside a card, look at what it's going to give to me. So let us push it inside a card or a visual, whatever it is. Now we now have something like this. So click on this particular C detail here to look at what it's going to give to you. So start reading from this particular part here. It says 2 few arguments were passed to the concatenate X function. The maximum argument count is this. Okay. Then I want to make sure it gives us different thing. Let me show you what I'm trying to show you here. It's very important to know this. Let us remove this particular concatenate X for the time being. Right? Take it off and take off this one and hit the enter key. We're going to have different error now. Right? So we already have the error here, but let us go to our visual part here to take a look at what the error is right now. So now we have different error right here. So it says the expression refers to multiple columns. Multiple columns cannot be converted to a scalar value. You get this right now. What is multiple column? If we now go back to the table view here, and you will click on the new table we just created, which is this particular one here. So the multiple column is talking about is the month, which is the short month, and the cancelled, reservation right here. So it's now multiple columns. So we cannot return this as a measure, but it can be returned as a physical table. It works here. We can see the top 2 months that we have cancellations. This is it. So I'm trying to tell you or preach this to you for you to understand why I'm going to use the concatenate X right now to make sure it becomes a scalar value. if we go back right now, the same error message is being displayed beneath here. So what is scalar value? Scalar value is the value that can show on a card or that can actually be displayed on a visual, right? So if it goes beyond that, that means you're showing, columns by columns. So now we have to come over here. So we do concatenate X here. So this concatenate X now, what are we going to do, or how do we use this particular concatenate X right here? So the very first thing is this: we have a calendar, right? Then we come here, put a comma on it. So we now say our month, which is this particular short month, is what we're actually trying to use. Just like what you have seen on the physical table, we want to concatenate the month that has the highest cancellation with its value, right? Remember, we are looking for 2, right? So if we now go over here, put a space on it, this ampersand here helps you to concatenate. Now, if I do this and space, and I do this particular pipe, space again, so what am I doing? I'm trying to do what is being called delimiter. Delimiter means the space, or what is separating 2 different words, Can you see it now? So the next thing now is to actually close this one, and we are going to put this particular cancel, reservation here. So if I now come over here now, I now do cancel, then I check this. I don't know if you get this right now. So we're going to actually display this, and let's see how it looks. I'll go ahead and close and hit my enter key like this. Let us now go over here and take a look at what we have. We now have something like this. Something like this. So if you look at it right now, we have November. November has 342. December has this particular, 3502 right here. And if you look at it, it's actually joined together. So what can we do to actually separate them to look like something that we can read? Because right now we can't read it, but it has given us exactly what we have right here. November and December. So if we go back right now, 342.5 and 3.502 right here. So what can we do? We have to go back here. So now that we are here, let's scroll down. So I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to use this particular function, this uni char here, and put 10 over here. So what have we done? We're actually trying to create what we call line break, right? So once we have done this, let us test it out to see what we have. So can you see it now? We have created a line break here. There is a line break right now between them. So you can actually format it to look better. Let's just put it on 30 to see. So what we have now, it looks good. So we now created a line break, and this is perfect on what we want to see. So if you don't want this particular line break, all you have to do is to compress this, and it will become something like this. So it's not more actually together. So if you want to maintain line break, you can do this, right? So now, if you look at it right now, this November is lower than December. So if you want to actually, swap it, which means you want to actually order it by having this one first before this particular one here comes. So what you can do is to actually use descending. But how do you do that? Let's go back. So we are back here right now. We can come over here and put a comma on this. Then we go over here and we do cancel reservation here. Remember, this one here wasn't a measure placed outside, but just like a variable that you store something inside. So this is where we actually got it created here. You get it now? So once you have done, you put a comma, and it's asking you, how do you want to do this? So you're just gonna say, okay, do it descending. Then if I hit my enter key right now, let's go back. So now December comes before November. That is from the highest value to the lowest value. You get it right now. So this is actually expressed in 1,000. If you look at this one now, it's 3,000, 3,000 as well. But there is no comma separator over here. Over here, it actually shows that it's in 1,000. How do we do it? So I think it's something you can do, but let me show you how you can get it done. So come over here now. So what we're going to do is just to make sure we format this particular, I think it's going to be, let's go down. Yes, this particular one here has to be formatted. This is the value. So here is the month. Then this is the value we concatenated with it. So to get it formatted right now, what you can do is just for you to go over here, drop it down, and use the format function here. Then come to the nth part here, put a comma, and inside double quotes, you have to do the number formatting. So I always use hash, comma, hash, hash, and K to show it in 1,000. If that is what you want, then let me remove the K away from here and do this and have this particular format closed. Let us look at what the result will look like. So now we have it separated in 1,000, just like this. Can you see it now? Then if we now go back and decide to put the K right on it. So put a K over here and hit your enter key. So can you see? This is what you now have. So it depends on how you want this to look. So we have just gotten exactly what we really want to show. This is exactly what we have in the dashboard you've seen, at the introductory part of this particular, video. So now it is time for you to understand everything that is going on right on this particular DAX. So first of all, let me collapse this to have more space to look at this. So let us look at the first step here. So here is our first step. The first step here is using the summarize function. Can you see the summarize function that uses the filter? So the filter is telling the machine that, okay, you know what? Go to my calendar table, try to check for cancellation booking, and only keep those particular value for every single month that do not have, blank. That is what this particular part of the code has actually done, right? That is what we have done right here. So what is going to happen right now is going to quickly summarize it by actually picking January and give it the value that is peculiar to it, which means there is a filter context that will happen to every single month. It's going to dish out numbers to them. So once we're actually done with this right now, the next thing is to look at this particular, top part here. The top two. What is the top two doing? The top two is actually saying, okay, you know what? I have 12 months, but I don't want all the 12 months. I want to keep just the top months, like the 2 months that has the highest value, just like November and December we have seen, right? So this is going to be very dynamic. If the filter changes, maybe visual filter or normal slicer, then it will affect the top two that we're actually seeing right here, right now. Can you see it now? Is actually dynamic. So after we have done this now, we now have this particular part that helps us to actually create something that looks like what I call a measure, but this is not a measure, but this is how it's just look. It's a column that aggregates the total numbers of cancellation for that month. So if you check out what we have actually done here, which is in this particular table, view we actually showed. So we have two different columns. The first column is actually the month, right? The second one is actually the value that is peculiar to that particular month. This is how we got that created. I don't know if you get this right now. So the second, the fourth part of the code here is going to be this very part. What is the functionality of this part? Before you talk about this particular part here, you have to make sure you remember the functionality of this guy to help us converting the two columns into a scalar value. And I told you a scalar value has to do with the kind of value that will show up on a card, on a chart, or that can show up on any visual right here. So if it is not done like this, using the concatenate X, to get all this particular value, put together, it will actually give us 2 columns. Then Microsoft Power BI will call it, multiple columns. That is the error you're going to see. Can you now see how easy it is to get this done right now? Okay, let's say we are done here. Just go Control A, Control C to copy. And now we have done for cancellation. It is time for what to do for reserved booking that was some kind of checked in. Right click and go for new measure. So we're going to create something very simple here. So caption here, cancelled. I'm going to do reserved, right? Once I've done that, instead of me to have cancellation here, I'll do reserved bookings. Over here, reserved booking. I think that is everything we need to do. So the next part you have to change right now is this particular cancellation part here. To change it at once at all the places I've used it, I can highlight this particular cancelled part and actually do Control Shift L and do maybe checked in reservation. Can you see it now? Keep it simple so that whoever actually comes to the back end here will understand what you have done. Can you see it now? This is all you have to do. So we have just created the 2 measures we need for this particular part, and this is cool. So we can just go ahead and copy and paste this one in and bring this one down. Let's go for this very one here. Can you see? Different months. So we have July here and we have June with their different values. So which means what we have done right now is working. So this is exactly what we need to do to have this created. This is the most complex part of our dashboard. So we have just bypassed this right now. And lucky you just have to practice and use this on your own personal project.